All right. Good evening. I would like to welcome everyone here to the proceedings of the Grand Rapids Public Schools Board of Education. It's Monday, November 5. We would ask you to rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Grant, can you please take the roll?
Yes, Dr. Baker.
Here.
Dr. Flores.
Present.
Ms. Grant present. Ms. Lewis. Present. Reverend Matias.
Present.
Mr. Ross.
Present.
Ms. Shockey. Here. Ms. Slade.
Present.
President Faub.
Present. Do I have a motion for approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next are our celebrations.
Thank you, Dr. Faub and members of the board. I'd like to ask Dr. Ron Gorman to come forward, please. And Kurt Johnson, I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson.
Good evening. Superintendent Weatherall Neal, President Faub, distinguished members of our Board of Education. The YWCA Tribute Awards honor women who share the YWCA's mission of eliminating racism, empowering women and girls, and promoting peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. The Tribute Awards have honored more than 200 women representing a distinguished group of leaders and trailblazers. The first person we would like to recognize tonight is our Board of Education member, Ms. Jen Schottke. Please, Ms. Jen Schottke. Sorry, my pause wasn't long enough. Ms. Jen Schottke received the YWCA Business Management Industry and Labor Award. This award is given to a woman who has exhibited superior ability and accomplishment in a company, business, organization, or association. Ms. Schottke is the Vice President of Operations at Associated Builders and Contractors of West Michigan. She embodies the YWCA's values. Ms. Schottke is passionate about career pathway development through career and technical education. She believes all students have to have an adult to take an invested, to have, Ms. Schottke, she believes all students deserve to have an adult take a vested interest in their future. An advocate for the skilled trades, Ms. Schottke works to ensure that all post-secondary education and training are equally promoted and celebrated. She plays a critical role in the success of My Career Quest, an annual multi-industry career exploration event held in Grand Rapids for more than 9,000 West Michigan middle and high school students. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Jen Schottke. We have two students that we would also like to recognize this evening who also received YWCA awards. We have Ms. Medina Sabic from City. Please stand. And we also have Ms. Damaris Vale from Innovation Central High School. This is a $500 scholarship awarded to students who excel in leadership qualities, academic or athletic accomplishments, have a positive impact on their community, exemplify the YWCA values, and have faced an extraordinary circumstance or challenge in an exceptional way. First up, Ms. Medina Sabic. Ms. Medina Sabic is a senior at City High Middle carrying a 4.02 GPA. She is a well-rounded student that balances the rigor of being an IB diploma program student while serving on the National Honor Society board and maintaining her spot as third singles on Union High School's varsity tennis team. Her natural ability to stand out as a leader really made an impact on Medina's English teacher, Ms. Donahue. And when Ms. Donahue learned of the extraordinary circumstances that have influenced Medina's life, she decided to nominate Medina for the 2018 YWCA Tribute Award. Medina will be a first-generation college student in her family. She is also an active participant within her household, which is demonstrated through her daily care of her siblings. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Medina Savick. And Medina is accompanied by her principal, Mr. Ryan Huppert. Next up from Innovation Central, Damaris Vale. Ms. Damaris Vale is an Innovation Central High School student who exemplifies what a great student and person should be. Damaris is the vice president of her junior class and has taken part in the Michigan Youth in Government program multiple years, where she authored and lobbied for a bill during this experience. She also volunteered during Michigan's primary election this summer. Damaris is a youth leader at her church and is a member of the Girls Powering Together Club at Innovation Central High School. She currently has a 3.92 GPA and is a member of the National Honor Society and is part of GVSU's Trio Upward Bound program. She is currently taking dual enrollment classes at Grand Rapids Community College, and she has received awards in physics and in algebra. By the end of her junior year, Damaris will have earned 13 credits toward her area of study, which will be something in the areas of social work, immigration, political science, and medicine. Ladies and gentlemen, Damaris Vale. Next up, Mr. Kurt Johnson will introduce our next award recipients.
Good evening, President Dr. Faub, Superintendent Weatherall Neal, and distinguished board members. It gives us great pleasure and honor to always be able to come before you with celebrations. And tonight we have a celebration, and I won't say much about it because I'm going to have our Director of Fine Arts come up and give you a little more perspective on it. But what I will say is that if you've ever been to the Citywide Art Show, there are art pieces that are mesmerizing. And that is due to the high quality teaching that is going on in the art classroom. If you've ever walked into this building, school building, and watch what's on the walls, again, mesmerizing, and that level of talent is being brought out of the students and being displayed in all kinds of ways. And so without any further ado, I would like our Director of Fine Arts, Maggie Malone, to come up and give you a little more perspective on our other honoree.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson, and thank you, distinguished members of the board and Superintendent Weatherall Neal. It's an honor to be here to celebrate one of our amazing, outstanding art teachers. This is Mrs. Colleen Holmes, and she is a passionate art instructor. She is currently teaching and serving the district at Ottawa Hills High School. She has also taught in some of our center-based programs. Colleen is passionate about equity and leadership opportunities for all students that she serves. She has many community connections and created volunteer opportunities for our students, and also brought a lot of positive attention to Ottawa and GRPS. And she has partnered with community rebuilders, giving an opportunity to 120 students from Ottawa Hills to create veterans-themed art to be displayed at the Housing Connection Center, which is a safe and temporary housing for homeless veterans. She also has partnered with the Global Youth Service Day, sponsored by Heart for West Michigan United Way, and she is including the entire Ottawa Hills body. They anticipate spending more than 5,000 hours volunteering to help support this year. Some of their plans include building 550 water filters, creating hundreds of toys for dogs and shelters, spreading 1 ton, I can't even imagine that, of wood chips and many other things. Colleen is also an advocate for social justice, and as Mr. Johnson referenced our art show last year, they did an art project, I Am, where each student created positive imaging of themselves. She used African American artists as examples of that, and had students recreate and imagine themselves in those roles. So we're very proud of Ms. Colleen Holmes to be the Arts Award category winner for the YWCA Michigan Tribute Award. And Colleen is here with her husband, James Holmes.
Lady is proud of you.
Congratulations.
We're supposed to stand up.
Congratulations. Good to see you. Congrats.
The club.
Is it gonna go around?
Hey.
Yeah, all of you need to go around.
Good job. We got you. Congratulations. This is quite an honor.
Dr. Faub, I'd like to now ask Larry Johnson to come forward with Mr. Philip Green.
Good evening, President Faub, Superintendent Neal, and other distinguished board members. Tonight, I just want to introduce Philip Green, who will introduce one of our distinguished members from our food service department. I've had the pleasure of working with Jen for pretty much her and pretty much my entire career here, and has been just an outstanding individual to work with. But Mr. Green, the Director of Food Service, will just run down an award that she just recently received.
It is a pleasure to be here tonight, Dr. Faub, Superintendent Weatherall Neal, distinguished board members. Like I said, it's an honor to be here to recognize one of our own in food safety. This is Jennifer Laniga. Jen was selected as a recipient of the School Nutrition Association of Michigan Manager of the Year. So we were very proud. They celebrated her last Saturday at the statewide convention in Lansing. Just to give you the background, I'll call it SNAM, which is the School Nutrition Association of Michigan. Over 1,700 food service professionals throughout Michigan are in this organization, providing training, advocacy, and professional development. So they're really an advocacy for the entire food service industry here in Michigan. Jen is a huge advocate for the child nutrition program, and she demonstrates her passion every day as we're out with the kids at the schools, trying to make sure they eat, making sure we put nutritious meals out there for them. Again, she's one of our food service supervisors. We're located over at the Nutrition Center. She has over 11 years worth of experience in food services, certified as a food safety personnel, as well as a food safety trainer. One of the things we're proud of, she went back, regained her certification, but also regained the title of a trainer as well as a proctor, so we can train our own people now. So that's worked out well for us. And she's also certified as a STAM state trainer. So there's a lot of different classes out there that she's able to do statewide training for. The last thing is, it was, like I said, we consider this not only a victory for Jen, for food services, but it was also good to hear Grand Rapids Public Schools' name mentioned at that convention with over 300 people there. So again, Jen, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I go around? Okay, what do I do?
Give her the mic.
It's like very competitive, highly competitive.
That's really,
Yeah. Monica Ramos will be proud.
yeah.
Stayed on Southern Food Service. Good job.
All right. I am really pleased to see these young men down at the end of the board table here. I wasn't here. Mr. Calderon, you were here the last meeting, but Mr. Muhammad, this is your first meeting, but we were introduced to you, and I'm going to, Ms. Light and I will not be here after December, so I probably won't get to know you very well, but anyway. Good luck. Really pleased you're here, and this is your moment here on the board, so Mr. Calderon, do you want to start?
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, good evening, everyone. As we know, we are now in the time where our seniors are applying to colleges. Last month, seniors at Union High School had the privilege to participate in the College Month. During the first week, Monday and Tuesday, seniors were able to go to the media center and apply to the colleges of their interest. Wednesday, all of the seniors were given the opportunity to go to the Grand Rapids Community College and learn more information about it. Thursday and Friday, students who needed additional time to complete their college applications were able to do so, again in the media center. During the second week of the college month, seniors had the chance to complete something that is very important: the free application for federal student aid, FAFSA. After students and parents were finished with the application, they were able to enjoy a delicious dinner at the cafeteria. For week number 3 of the college month, students were given the opportunity to go to the Aquinas College Fair, which is the biggest college fair in Kent County during the fall. More than 80 colleges were present, giving the students the chance to see what makes a college different from the rest. Week 4 was definitely the best week for the students. During this week, students celebrated their accomplishments throughout the month by getting away from the cafeteria food and enjoy delicious food from El Granjero. During the celebration, a lot of fun activities happened, including a raffle for items such as headphones, prom tickets, senior trip, cap and gown for graduation, a JBL speaker, and a laptop. But we know that information without statistics is not credible. Therefore, I have some statistics for you tonight. During the college month at Union High School, 136 seniors completed 415 college applications. That means over 80% of the seniors at Union High School have taken the first step to continuing their education after high school. Isn't that exciting?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you. Mr. Muhammad.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bakir Muhammad, and I am in the 12th grade at Ottawa Hills High School. I want to thank the Board of Education for giving me the opportunity to serve as a student representative for my school, and I am pleased to have the opportunity to be the student voice of Ottawa and myself as well. I hope my contributions grow Grand Rapids educationally and socially.
Thank you. Yeah. Welcome. Awesome. Both of you. Very impressive. I guess we shared your bios at the last meeting, but I'm reading them now. I'm just very impressed with them. I cannot believe your language acquisition in such a short time. It's incredibly impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to see both of you. Union, Ottawa.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is public comment for board agenda items only.
Yes. I will call all 3 of our guests down at once. So we have Mr. Farage, Ms. Prince, and Ms. Schultzing.
Mr. Farage, I was going to call you up, so
Okay.
that's great. Thank you.
Nothing, I didn't know who was first, that's all. Members of the board, superintendent, and invited guests, first of all, congratulations. Those great honors to see people receive awards, and to our wonderful students who are joining us today. We are in the middle of a search for superintendent. I commented on this downstairs, but I want to kind of tweak a little bit more of what I think is very important. We need a superintendent who's a proven winner, a proven winner. We need to go globally, not someone who is political patronage locally, but somebody who has proven, who can rebuild what used to be. I remember when 300 or 400 students at Union High School were seniors applied for college. We need to bring back the residents who live in Grand Rapids as students. And we need to rebuild that pride that GRPS once had. We had amazing rivalries with the GRPS schools at Catholic Central. And we need somebody who can do all of this, someone who has proven to do all of this. And it must be led by the people I'm looking at. Every single board member was elected by the taxpayers. And they elect you to do things like this and not pass off this on anything. Dr. Flores lives in Granville Avenue. He can lead the group, the community meeting there, Mr. Matias in the Fulton Heights area, on and et cetera. But this needs to be led by the board. It cannot be passed off by anyone. You wear GRPS on your chest, and in this search, this very critical search, at a time when we have many challenges, math, reading, athletics, challenges within our community, I believe the board must bring this back. And the pride comes back when the board takes exceptional pride in picking a superintendent. No one says it's going to be easy, and there's still, more than likely, I'm still going to be the one to complain. But we still need a global search for the best man or woman, whoever can do this with a proven record. Anything short of that is unacceptable. And I believe an individual in a community, if a board member is present, a community member will be more apt to attend these meetings. You know, some of these meetings you've been to in the past, whether it's Millage or whatever it is, I think oftentimes the board isn't involved, so people just kind of take a negative approach. I think there'll be some excitement in this if you make it an exciting. And no one says it's going to be easy, but I believe that our best choice is a global search for the right person led by our board members. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's all right. Ms. Prince.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I want to address the selection process for superintendent. First of all, what is the qualifications that are required? And does our candidate have those qualifications? First of all, do they have a background in education, especially training in special ed? Do they have a PhD? What about teaching experience? Will they advocate for the students? And did we open up the selection process beyond just an internal selection where somebody is propped up? I also believe that we need more community involvement. For example, make it more democratic. Let's have some town hall meetings. Let's get some input and make it more transparent. And I also, lastly, want to endorse Dr. Jose Flores for re-election. And that's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Schulting.
Hi, thank you, President Falb and members of the board and Superintendent Neal. I first want to just say thank you for those of you who were able to come out to the Lincoln Developmental Center, and I hope that you had a great time and that you will come regularly, hopefully often. And to that point, maybe we could even pay the board to have a raise. I would be in favor of that, and I hope you would be too, to have board members have a raise and be able to visit the schools regularly. Wouldn't that be a great idea? Amen? Okay. So, and also, but no, seriously, that was one of our points from over 2 years ago, and so I hope you'll reconsider that idea of visiting schools. I think, you would find it enjoyable and a good learning experience as well. And to that point, I just wanted to begin, this is my first time talking to you as a group this fall, and I just want to mention that this school year, I hope that we can find common ground and that we can collaborate and negotiate together. And that we do it with a goal in mind, that we try to help all students and that we work together to address systematic problems, because we're not here to raise problems, and we're here to help, to know that it's something that negatively affects students and it negatively affects families, and so it's a concern, and we don't want to just leave it there. We just want to work together, and we hope that it will be a much easier process. We certainly don't want it to escalate, like to have to be repeated over again as we did last year. But just and that's my commitment to you as well, that we just want to stick to the issues. And so if you have anything that you ever want to talk to me about, I definitely want to help make it a much easier process of facilitating and negotiating for all students. And yeah, I hope we can do that. Thank you.
All right, we have a number of reports. First, the secretary's report.
A few quick announcements for tonight. First, we have City High Middle School presents Rogers and Hammerstein's Cinderella. City High Middle will hold performances of the classic story Cinderella in its auditorium on Friday, November 9th at 7:30 p.m. It will also be held on Saturday, November 10th at 7:30 and Sunday, the 11th at 2 p.m. Adult tickets are $12 and student tickets are $8. They are available at the door. Please join us as GRPS students exhibit their acting and musical talents. Also, a few items for the district calendar. On November 6th, there will be no school. That is a Tuesday, and it is district-wide professional development for staff. Also, we will be closed for Thanksgiving break on November 21st through the 23rd, and that is for the holidays.
Thank you. Reverend Matthias, that's an update on the Academic Achievement Committee.
Well, we're going to have an Academic Achievement Committee on the 20th of November. And so we're going to be covering some things like social, emotional, and just kind of where our district is on those particular things, including PBIS, the PTCC, parent-teacher community councils, suspension updates. So we encourage parents and the public to come to that. It's at 9 o'clock here on the 20th of November.
The City Board Liaison Committee met last week. That committee meets, I was going to say quarterly, but I think it's 3 times a year. We welcomed our new city manager, Mark Washington, to the meeting. That was awesome. I'm going to I know we talked about looking out at Lynn Heemstra. I'm looking to Dr. Baker. I'm trying to remember. We talked about the national grant we have with the environment, what's the title of it? The Green Connecting Children to Nature, which is great. We got an update on the progress of that, which is a fantastic partnership between the city and the school in terms of engaging children with green space. Really, really exciting. And I'm going to ask Dr. Baker to give an update because there was a significant update on the through college studio.
Yes, again, I think that a lot of the meeting was also just rediscussing the role of the city board liaison, especially with the new city manager. We talked about sustainability of the Two College Through College program and success. Two College Through College recently had a summit celebrating the 1,300 students that had been assisted by the Office of Two College Through College as they went off to college. So these are students, many of whom would have struggled to stay in school or maybe not be in school at all were it not for the support of this particular office and the connections that Shayla Willis, the director of the office, made. And so we discussed ways to make that sustainable, especially given changing funding models. So that's our work, and that was a major conversation.
Yeah. We also had, I know in the past that committee had joint discussion over advocacy and policy. So I think going forward, that's going to be another joint issue between the city and schools. Ms. Shockey, Finance Committee.
Yeah, the Finance Committee met on October 22nd, and there's just a few items of note from that meeting. First, board members, you'll note on the agenda later that we have an action item regarding the closing date extension on the Pine Street property sale. We are requesting this evening to accommodate a 30-day public comment period requirement. The City of Grand Rapids and the Michigan State Housing Development Authority are required to produce a joint publication of that date, and they had yet to do that, so we were just requesting an extension for the closing date. The Finance Committee does recommend approval of this action item. And then just before this meeting at our work session, we did receive the audit report from Plant Moran. And just want to note that in the in the financial reports, you'll note that based on great fiscal management of the district, we were able to increase our projected fund balance from the 5.7 in budget to 8.49 moving forward. That's my report.
Great. And the Ad hoc Policy Committee.
Should I give my report now about the changes we need?
Well, I think we should do those as we go
Okay,
through the
all right.
policy.
So we met on the 31st, and we have some things that we'll present later.
Okay, great. And just briefly, because I know we're going to discuss it later, Dr. Baker, the Ad hoc Superintendent Transition Planning.
Yeah, there's a lot to review, but maybe not a lot. So last time this board met, we voted to do two things. One was to convene an ad hoc committee to plan November 12th meeting next Monday to bring in community stakeholders community representative to discuss how to do a superintendent search process, just to educate the board and the board members elect. And we also, at that time, also voted to do an RFP for a firm to start the community engagement process. So this is not a superintendent search process, but the community engagement process that would bring about opportunities for persons to find information about what the community would like in the direction of the district. That was what we voted on. A couple of things happened as we prepared for that. One is as we were communicating with people that we wanted to speak, we kind of learned that this was kind of an odd request, partly because we were both asking people to tell us how to do a process at the same time, where we were also asking people to offer their services to do their process. Another thing that we discovered was the RFP language wasn't really accepted by the purchasing department. And we also began to study more clearly the work that had done in 2011 and discovered that the KISD, we rediscovered that KISD had been a part of this community engagement process. And it actually had done a similar time frame where we had done a community engagement process before we began a superintendent search. So we had a community engagement a set of information available before we even began to hire a superintendent search firm. Which we ended up not doing, but the community engagement process was still done to facilitate that. To make a long story, after we gathered all this information, learned that the ISD was more than willing to offer their services again, but would not compete in an RFP process, we decided to reconvene, and we have a new, so basically we were kind of stuck because we had to redo an RFP for this week. We would have had to, so we came up with a new recommendation, and we'll discuss the details of that later, but the new recommendation would be to have the ISD proceed with the community engagement process beginning immediately if we vote to do so. That way we can get much of the work done by mid-December and have some work done before the new board. The primary problem with this, a major difference between this year and 2011 is that in 2011, the school board election had occurred in May. The new board members were seated in July, and there were only 2 new board members, so there was not a lot of transition. Right now, we have in the middle of the superintendent search process an election tomorrow that could bring us anywhere from 2 to 4 new members, and so we don't necessarily even know who would be making the decisions. A community engagement process could be useful, especially a community engagement process that would be done well by our partners at the ISD at no cost to the district. That will be the recommendation that we'll discuss. So lots of time spent on the phone.
So thanks to the ad hoc committee for all the work and for meeting twice within this time period. And I forwarded all the meetings from the ad hoc committee meeting individually, so you've seen those ahead of time. So should be prepared to discuss. Thanks. Superintendent's report.
Thank you. I will ask Dr. Ron Gorman to come forward for this presentation.
All right. Thank you for having me back this evening. As you know, this is John Helmholtz Lane. I'm filling in for him this evening. Just to give you some updates on what we have done in the Grand Rapids Public Schools to get out the votes for Election Day. We've sent out many emails, robocalls, text messages, media posts with very important information, sharing information on how to vote, where to vote, how to view the ballots, and other important election information. Polls open at 7 a.m. tomorrow and close at 8 p.m. tomorrow. As you may be aware, students do not have school tomorrow. It is a professional learning day for our teachers and administrators. Some tips for tomorrow: if voting in person, anticipate a higher than normal turnout. And if you are in line by 8 p.m., you are allowed to vote. If you have any additional questions, you can always connect with us, but it is tomorrow, and we just want to urge everyone to get out and vote. I know I will be there as early as possible, so should be a very eventful day. Additionally, we have some Board of Education recognitions that we would like to share this evening. I shared one already. It's Ms. Jen Schottky, but there are two other recognitions this evening, one of which is for Ms. Christian Grant, who was named among the top 40 under 40 business leaders by the Grand Rapids Business Journal. So please congratulate Ms. Grant. And then Dr. Wendy Verhaeg-Faub was recently awarded the Hispanic Advocate Award by the committee to honor Cesar E. Chavez. And many of us were able to share that evening with you, so congratulations, Doctor.
All right, we have a number of action items this evening. The first is our purchasing agenda. I would ask for a move for approval. Support. Any discussion or concerns regarding that? Ready?
All right, Dr. Baker,
Yes.
Dr. Flores,
Yes.
Ms. Grant, yes. Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Reverend Matias,
Yes.
Mr. Ross, Ms. Shockey,
Yes.
Ms. Slade, President Faub.
Yes. As Ms. Schottky mentioned in her report, they're requesting an extension of the closing date on the Pine Street property sale. Resolution for that. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support.
Any questions, concerns? Take the vote.
Dr. Baker,
Yes.
Dr. Flores,
Yes.
Ms. Grant, yes. Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Reverend Matias,
Yes.
Mr. Ross, Ms. Shockey,
Yes.
Ms. Slade, President Faub.
Yes. As I mentioned earlier, at the Liaison Committee, we had a report from our committee's children. The department shared by both the city and the district, and you all had a chance to look at the work plan. So do I have a motion for approval of that work plan?
Support.
Any questions or concerns? All right, take the vote.
Okay, Dr. Baker,
Yes.
Dr. Flores,
Yes.
Ms. Grant, yes. Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Reverend Matias,
Yes.
Mr. Ross, Ms. Shockey,
Yes.
Ms. Slade, President Faub.
Yes. Next, we have a number of policies requiring approval of a first reading that were sent forward from the Policy Committee. And I want to say a thank you to Reverend Matias for filling in. So we had a quorum serving as alternate on the ad hoc committee. So maybe, Ms. Lewis, you want to just give us the description of change, and then I'll ask for a motion.
Okay, the first one, policy 5220, performance evaluation system. This policy has been amended to indicate that 3 consecutive years of minimally effective performance evaluations rating for tenured teachers will be considered ineffective performance. Probationary teachers cannot attain tenure if they have 1 year of minimally effective performance during the 3rd, 4th, or 5th year of employment with the district. The standard for tenured teacher is not as rigorous, but the administration believes that a tenured teacher should have effective performance at least once during the 3-year period, if not more. Tenured teachers have a right to appeal their evaluations, and in this case, it would go directly to the superintendent. And they would also have the right to appeal any dismissal decisions by the board, or to the board, and then on to the tenure commission.
Do I have a motion for approval of the first reading of the changes to policy 5520?
Support.
Any discussion, concerns? All right.
Dr. Baker,
Yes.
Dr. Flores,
Yes.
Ms. Grant, yes. Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Reverend Matthias,
Yes.
Mr. Ross, Ms. Shockey,
Yes.
Ms. Slade, President Faub.
Yes.
All right, the next policy is 5350, alcohol and drug-free workplace. This policy was amended to include the prohibition against being under the influence of marijuana in addition to controlled substances and alcoholic products. It is also requires employees to submit to appropriate testing in the event that the administration reasonably believes that the employee is under the influence of any prohibited substance.
All right. Just also to give you guys some context, Ms. Pitts often attends statewide convenings about things that should be updated from a policy standpoint, and some of these came out of that. So do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support.
Any discussions? All right.
Dr. Baker,
Yes.
Dr. Flores,
Yes.
Ms. Grant, yes. Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Reverend Matthias,
Yes.
Mr. Ross, Ms. Shockey,
Yes.
Ms. Slade, President Faub.
Yes.
Okay, policy 8320, assaults committed by students.
Oh, what about
Did I skip one? Oh,
5350?
criminal history, that's right, sorry.
What about
We
5350?
just did 5350, but
I thought we did
we
9240.
didn't do 9240.
We skipped
Oh,
9240.
Yeah, I think she
9240.
has a different order.
I did them out of order?
We can move in her order.
We'll stay with your
That's
order,
fine.
Kathy.
All right, stay with my order. Okay, all right. Policy 5175, and according to the rule of 5175, criminal history and background checks. This policy has been amended to add language required by the state of Michigan so that the district can continue to have access to the criminal history record information. The rules have been amended to include all of the requirements, and this information was provided to the district in advance of an audit of our process. The state requires that these provisions be in board policies.
Do I have a motion for approval of the first reading of 5175?
So moved.
Support.
Any deliberations?
Dr. Baker,
Yes.
Dr. Flores,
Yes.
Ms. Grant, yes. Ms. Lewis,
Yes?
Reverend Matthias,
Yes.
Mr. Ross, Ms. Shockey,
Yes.
Ms. Slade, President Faub.
Yes.
All right, the next one I have is assaults committed by students, policy 8320. This policy has been amended to include a provision that any student convicted of sexual assault against a student at his, her school, or any student in the district, or at any, or by any student in the district will be expelled by the district. This is an expansion of the language required by law. The suspension and expulsion provisions were also added.
Again, this was a legal requirement, it's bringing it in line with law. Do I have a motion for approval of 8320?
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? All
I
right.
do have a question.
Mhm.
The CSC standard, I'm just curious, there are various degrees, obviously, of CSC, and I just wondering, was that part of the conversation, or are we speaking any degree of CSC?
Yeah, no, it wasn't. We didn't discuss it in the policy committee. Uh-uh. I mean, I had some concerns as well on the policy committee, but it was, my understanding is we were simply putting language that made it in compliance with the law. I don't know.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Dr. Fogg, Superintendent, board members. The statute does not make a distinction between the levels of sexual assault. It just says if they are committed, if they are convicted of a crime of sexual assault, then they have to be expelled. But however, you know that we still have the other factors that we have to consider prior to expelling a student. So it's, so, okay. Any other questions?
So did we do a motion?
Yes.
Everything? All right. No more discussion. Take the vote.
Dr. Baker,
Yes.
Dr. Flores,
Yes.
Ms. Grant, yes. Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Reverend Matthias,
Yes.
Mr. Ross,
Yes.
Ms. Shockey,
Yes.
Ms. Slade. Yes. President Faub.
Yes.
All right. Next one I have is 8350, and the rule associated with that, student suspensions, expulsions, and reinstatements. This policy has been amended to include a reinstatement provision. We also changed the title to reflect that, and the rule also has a title change. The current rule outlines all the procedures that the administration and parents must follow for a student to be reinstated.
Do I have a motion for approval, first reading of 8350?
So moved.
Support.
Any deliberations?
Dr. Baker,
Yes.
Dr. Flores,
Yes.
Ms. Grant, yes. Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Reverend Matthias,
Yes.
Mr. Ross,
Yes.
Ms. Shockey,
Yes.
Ms. Slade. President Faub.
Yes.
All right, policy 3800, or 3800. I was an English teacher, you know. This includes,
3,800.
it's always my excuse. Fundraising by employees and students. This policy has been changed to reflect that it applies to employees and students. It includes permission to use crowdfunding sources by the employees. And so this covers things like Amazon, if they go on Amazon and make a list of things that they want from Amazon. What's the other one? Crowdfunding. There's another one. But the deal is everything that they collect belongs to the school.
Do I have a motion for approval of 3800?
So moved.
Support.
Support.
Any discussion?
Dr. Baker,
Yes.
Dr. Flores,
Yes.
Ms. Grant, yes. Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Reverend Matthias,
Yes.
Mr. Ross,
Yes.
Ms. Shockey,
Yes.
Ms. Slade. President Faub.
Yes.
All right, and the last one. What?
There's two more.
There's a couple more.
I hope not. There's 8940 and a rule that goes with it. This policy has been revised to include the requirement that entities desiring personally identifiable student information must have data sharing arrangements with the district. It also includes the statutory prohibition against providing student information to for-profit entities, unless an exception is made by the superintendent and only with parental consent. And this is a requirement of state law.
Do I have a move for approval of 8940?
So moved.
Any discussion?
Dr. Baker,
Yes.
Dr. Flores,
Yes.
Ms. Grant, yes. Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Reverend Matthias,
Yes.
Mr. Ross,
Yes.
Ms. Shockey,
Yes.
Ms. Slade. President Faub.
Yes.
All right. My right hand or left hand woman just showed me what else I missed. All right, and this is 9240, alcohol, smoke, and drug-free schools, grounds, vehicles, and facilities. This policy is amended to include the fact that the use of marijuana or being under the influence of marijuana will continue to be a violation of board policy, even if it becomes lawful. The policy includes a definition of marijuana and continues to cover all other unlawful controlled substances. Finally, the policy allows for alcoholic products to be consumed at Grand Rapids Public Museum schools, both the Museum School and 54 Jefferson, when events are being held in the school after hours.
Do I have a motion for approval of 9240?
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion?
Dr. Baker,
Yes.
Dr. Flores,
Yes.
Ms. Grant, yes. Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Reverend Matthias,
Yes.
Mr. Ross,
Yes.
Ms. Shockey,
Yes.
Ms. Slade. Yes. President Faub.
Yes. We have a lot of discussion at the policy committee. All right, and finally, we need to move on engaging the ISD for the community engagement process for the superintendent transition planning. So I guess I can, if maybe we should start with having, is there any questions for Dr. Baker or the ad hoc committee members? having reviewed the minutes and being updated by Dr. Baker and the reporter. Are there any questions? Dr. Flores?
I have a question. I'm wondering if, if there was consideration to the comments that were listed regarding Mr. Konarska's assessment of what the process was the last go-round by the Kent ISD. On page 74, it'd be the packet of past minutes of the superintendent's search, in which they report that a series of 29 meetings encompassing 57 different stakeholder groups were held between dates October 4th, 2011 through November 23rd, 2011, within excess of 150 people taking part. It indicated that while they tried every possible way to target community involvement and public information went out, the forums are not well attended, according to this document. I know that the recommendation is to forego the RFP process and to cancel the meeting of the next elected board members, but I really have to question the logic behind that. To engage the KSD, even though it's free, sometimes all good intentions, and saving dollars in the process, it is easier to walk away from something that is free because you're not so committed to it, as we did in the last go-round in our superintendent search. And I would just forewarn the board that I think that, from a transparency standpoint and from a community activist standpoint, I think that the community deserves more accountability in this process, and that for us to just go with the KISD rather than an RFP and involve more and engage more entities from our community, I think it would be an error in judgment.
So
I would not support it.
correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Flores, but I'm
Yes.
hearing a deliberation, which is
Yes.
more than appropriate, but that probably should come after the motion, but we can consider that having come. But are there any questions right now for the committee? Otherwise, I'll ask
Well,
for the.
that is my question.
Otherwise-
Did the committee
Oh, okay.
specifically review all of the information and specifically pay attention to this citation on page 74?
We all read it.
I'm not sure I would draw the same conclusion that these meetings were not well attended. I mean, if you divide 150 people times 29 perhaps, but I'm not sure that this doesn't seem to suggest that there were 29 public forums. There were 29 meetings, including 57 different stakeholder groups. It could have been a meeting with a couple people.
Well, this is not my opinion. This is what is written. And it specifically says that they were not well attended.
Well, yeah, I guess I didn't see the.
It's not my opinion.
Are there any other questions for the
So-
committee regarding this?
Well, at some point, I'd like to actually just explain what their process is.
Yeah.
Public. I don't know if we should do that now or after it's been.
Go for it. Do it right now.
All right, so this is what was accomplished in 2011. It would be different persons involved in this. There were community meetings. I actually remember fairly extensive reports from reading this, although we have not been able to find the actual completed reports from 7 years ago, but I do remember the process. I believe that Reynard Ross and Wendy Fall were also, and Mo Slade.
Mo Slade.
There's still 4 of us that were on the board at that time. So we were pretty impressed with the process. It did not, we didn't have any concerns at the time about the community engagement process. The findings were pretty dramatic, and there are concluding comments that were from that. Let me just read what it is that they offer to do, and then we can determine how that, whether or not this is enough. So I'd like to actually just read the document that says what their process would be. Okay, so their point is that, and I think that this goes where, who does what work? One is that we're in a situation where we're not sure that people sitting here currently will be making the decisions regarding the superintendent search process. We are quite sure that there will be people that are sitting here now that will not be part of the search process come January. How do we gather information to do some work ahead of time without imposing something on a as yet seated board? So the ISD offers this. Their perspective of the initial process is to gather information from stakeholders so the Board of Education can develop a candidate profile. The ISD would not be developing candidate profile. They would collect data from the community and stakeholders for the board to create a candidate profile. The profile will assist in matching leadership needs with the skills of various candidates. The profile is essential in that it articulates the key attributes the board is seeking in the district's next leader based on the input of internal and external stakeholders. The profile is the measuring stick, which is used in screening the applicants to be interviewed, and questions that are eventually asked in the interview should reflect the chief characteristics and leadership competency identified within the profile. And then there are questions for the board to consider. So this is what they would do. We would either hand this off to a superintendent search process or whatever we would decide to do. The first question that they ask is one that we'll answer tonight is, should the board use Kent ISD to assist it in gathering relevant data and information, or should the board hire a search firm for this service? Okay, so that's the question that we will consider tonight. What role should board members perform during this information gathering process? This will be something that we'll have to discuss. One is to approve the timeline, and they have suggested that their timeline would be about 6 weeks, bringing them to mid-December. We would have to approve the individuals and the groups whose input would be solicited, so we would have to communicate that as a board. We would approve the structure of data collection methods that would and could include group meetings or focus groups, so targeted individuals, regional town hall meetings, individual meetings, and surveys. And then we would have to decide whether or not we attended as board members and whether or not we attended as participants or as listeners. The questions they would ask, these would be broad general questions to get the mood of the audience. What are the major points of pride in Grand Rapids Public Schools? What are the greatest challenges facing the district? What are the chief characteristics desired in the next superintendent? What advice do you have for the Board of Education? Should the board focus on potential internal candidates familiar with the current landscape and initiatives, or should it conduct a statewide national search? How should information and data be compiled? Identifying most frequent priorities from participants, listing main characteristics desired by stakeholders. And the notes from the last time are in your packet, which are similar. How should the process be structured to be totally transparent? Publishing a schedule of stakeholder meetings, timely reports to the boards and public meetings, sharing of raw data with board members, written reports of findings, board discussion of stakeholders' advice, board decision on agreed upon profile for superintendent. It will also require some assistance from Grand Rapids Public Schools. The board will need to appoint a point of contact, either the president, another designee, or a committee to help steer the work. Assistance from executive leadership to identify stakeholder groups, individuals, and points of contact with these groups. Communication support, presumably from John Helmholtz's office. Links on website for survey. Assistance with communication to various stakeholder groups to share information, invitations, and use of facilities to conduct stakeholder group meetings. So that is their process that they are proposing to us. This process could begin if we choose to go with the ISD tomorrow, and could be completed by mid-December. They would work with us to have a date in December, mid to late December, where they could present the findings of their process to the current board and board members elect, which would, depending on what we learn, perhaps allow us to proceed as early as January. One of the things that Superintendent Caniff informed us is that he would suggest that instead of seeing June 30th as our deadline, that we see spring break as our deadline. That way, whoever we would bring in would have a chance to work with Teresa, Superintendent Neal, before she leaves at the end of June. Sorry, leaves at the end of June. So that's the process. You know, we were kind of scrambling to try to figure out how to do this. The November 12th date wasn't going to work for a couple reasons. It was difficult to manage with the ISD's interest in participating, and we couldn't really redo the RFP process until today. This process allows us to begin, and we would have data in mid-December. So,
Tony, I have a comment as well. So, Dr. Flores, if I understand your comment about the attendance, and I think Tony has spoken to this as well, but we're not handing the process off to the ISD to do without us. So as far as like engagement and attendance, the board and the district would still be heavily involved in that, in making sure that we do have heavy participation from the community. It's just that the ISD definitely, when the committee met with them, they had a lot of blind spots that we found for ourselves that we just didn't think of, not knowing the process. They were able to point out many things, which really led to saying like they are more qualified to help us with this. They've helped in the past and they've helped other districts, but we would still be heavily involved, and we would also use prior information from the last tour that Superintendent Weatherall did as far as engaging the community and how they feel with the district. So we'd be using past information as well. So as far as engagement, I think that the team at the district level is a little bit different than it was in 2011, and that the grassroots work that's been continually done in the community has different relationships now than it did then.
A question, could all of the suggestions that KISD made here that reported to this board, could those be accomplished by an independent contractor that would contract with the district?
So my understanding that part of, because I wasn't on the ad hoc committee, but it was communicated, was that by putting out a formal request for proposals, it would exclude the ISD from giving a proposal, since they do that work without fee for service. And given sort of their extensive experience within doing this work, and that, as Dr. Baker had mentioned, we're on a very unusual timeline that has happened elsewhere in the state, where we have board changeover in January and yet have to find a superintendent. So given all of their experience and their experience in the community, and the fact that they can't participate in the proposal and that they provide that without fee for service, I think that was what was communicated
yes,
to me
and
from
I
the.
certainly would view them as an independent resource. They don't have biases towards. Well, I mean, their work is to facilitate the needs of the 20 districts that are part of the ISD. So,
I have a lot of respect for the KISD. However, I also witnessed the process that was abandoned the last time around. And my concern is that if the KISD organization, in its final reports to the public, stated that they didn't engage enough, that in fact there wasn't enough participation.
Can you point that out to me? I'm missing that.
It's on page 74 of the third packet within our
it's on the top because it's
dockets.
not coming up by. What's the date?
You can pass that on. Again, if an organization says that they could have done better, perhaps we should be looking at a formal contract with an entity that perhaps is out there that could engage and that would at least hold accountable the process. I would hate for us to get down the road and then have a nucleus, Dr. Baker, that then decides, oh, well, we're going to abandon this process because, well, it didn't cost us anything anyway. It's easy to walk away from a contract that you have not paid anything for, and you really don't have a firm agreement to its fruition, to its completion. And that is the concern that I have. And I think that the community deserves the transparency that's necessary.
Can I just,
Yes.
if we are into deliberations, and if I sense that there is a majority of the board that would like to entertain a motion to engage the ISD, then I would like to have a motion on the table before we deliberate approval of the motion. So do I have a motion for approval of engaging the ISD for a community engagement process to assist the future board in developing the superintendent profile?
So moved.
Right. Deliberation, we've heard significant deliberation from Dr. Flores. I have Dr. Baker and then Reverend Matias.
Yeah, I just want to clarify the process from last time, because what the KISD last time was what they were asked to do, just as they were collecting community data prior to beginning the superintendent search process. That would be what they were doing at that time. We asked them to do this community engagement process to help the board make a decision about the superintendent search process. It was much later. The ISD was not planning to participate in the superintendent search as a superintendent search firm. We were entertaining RFPs from other superintendent search firms. We hired an interim superintendent that we did not know. Most of us did not know. We decided soon into that, to Superintendent Neal's tenure, that we were in a tough predicament. We had offered we had told the community that we would do a community engagement process, but yet at the same time, we were very convinced that we had the superintendent that was exactly what we felt we needed, responded to the issues of the community engagement process, and that we were hearing numerous responses from the community asking us to consider hiring the superintendent. We made a decision to do that. People could disagree as to whether or not, and I had conversations with stakeholders who thought that we should have figured out a way to include a community engagement process further, even if we had decided to do that. We didn't feel at the time that going through a search process when we knew what we thought at the time was going to be the outcome to do that. That's my memory of the situation. Regardless of whether or not you think that was the correct course of action or not, it had nothing to do with the community engagement process that the ISD did. The ISD helped us to begin a process. We would be handing this data over to whoever we would decide to hire, and however the future board, who isn't even elected yet, would decide to do this process come January. This would be a gift to that board to have information to go forward on.
I think we have to.
Wait,
Okay, I'm sorry.
Reverend Matias?
Yeah, I would say I wasn't part of that process in 2011, but what I would say is that we're 7 years wiser, for one, as being stated even in public comment, that they want this process to be transparent, and I think that that's what that's the attempt here, to be able to do that, and so to be able to ask critical questions, to be able to make sure that we have the right engagement. I would think that then and now that we're gonna get a lot of public involvement and engagement as these dates come off, and so I'm very confident that as a board and as a public that that they're gonna be able to make their needs known to us, and we're gonna be able to categorize it and tabulate it in ways that's going to give us a profile of the kind of person that we want to see be our next superintendent. So I look forward to that process, and I'm excited to engage our stakeholders here in that process. So
I think it's very important to have somebody who has an understanding of K-12 and has an understanding of the specificities of the role of superintendent within K-12. I think there could be real limitations to any entity doing that engagement process that did not have a deep understanding of that. So that gives me confidence in the ISD. Plus, it will be on the board to give oversight to the process, to make sure that it has the right engagement, the right stakeholders, the right promotion of the meetings to get the right attendance. So to some extent, we need to hold them accountable. So that is part of the process. But I would hate to exclude the ISD as a entity to do that, since in many ways I feel they're best suited to do that. So I'm very comfortable with going forward with this process and feel like it's the right thing to do, a good start.
I also don't think, just a last comment, there is no possibility that this board is going to abandon the process.
No.
I am committed to the process. I am committed to having confidence in choosing the best person for our students and our families for this community. And so to say as a board that we would abandon the process, it's not an option to me. And I would like to make that very clear and on record. And I feel like the colleagues that I've been working with have those same sentiments. So I would just like to note that that language, that's not what we're here for.
I guess I just want to second that, and I think, you know, to kind of piggyback on your point, Dr. Faub, I do think it's important to engage with folks who are very familiar with this work, and I guess, frankly, in good conscience, it'd be difficult to spend thousands of dollars for someone that we know is familiar, but to find someone else private when we know there's a public entity who has a vested interest in the success of GRPS that's going to do this work at no cost. And that just seems nonsensical to me, to be honest.
There's no further deliberations. You take the vote.
Dr. Baker,
Yes.
Dr. Flores,
No.
Ms. Grant, yes. Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Reverend Matias,
Yes.
Mr. Ross,
Yes.
Ms. Shockey,
Yes.
Ms. Slade,
Yes.
President Faub.
Yes. All right, next on the agenda, we have our consent agenda grouping. Do I have motion for approval?
Support.
Dr. Baker,
Yes.
Dr. Flores,
Yes.
Ms. Grant, yes. Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Reverend Matias,
Yes.
Mr. Ross,
Yes.
Ms. Shockey,
Yes.
Ms. Slade, President Faub.
Yes. Our discussion item, as Dr. Baker noted, we had planned a November work session in which to bring various entities in to introduce us to the superintendent search process. There were some challenges with developing that. We're moving forward with the ISD. So as of now, we don't have any agenda items for that work session. So, you know, I don't know whether we cancel or whether I've been running so hard, I didn't even talk with you about agenda items, but there weren't any. The only thought I had, and this doesn't happen to November, but we had discussed about, and this could be with a future board, but we had discussed about developing a policy regarding equity for the district, and had done a bit of work with the board readings, doing some readings and some discussions at the board retreats. We don't have to do that in the November work session. I guess I just wanted to put out there my thoughts with that. Was anticipating some of you are attending the National Advocacy Conference, and last year we had Nicole Hannah-Jones speak to the role of segregation in creating inequities. So I know we had talked a lot about policy around admissions, and Ms. Grant had talked about the changing of neighborhoods and schools and how we ensure neighborhood schools maintain the right balance. So that could be the next, I'm just seeing the end of my time here, so I was like, I gotta squeeze that in, but that could certainly be taken up by the next board and the new board. There's an extent to which this board has worked on all of that. So I don't know what everybody's thoughts are. December will be spent with the superintendent evaluation and anything else that may come up.
I think we're probably going to have some sort of a special meeting and have the old and the new members involved. And that maybe we could have somebody from the Michigan Association of School Boards come and give us some guidance about governance and about our roles and what we should be doing and shouldn't be doing as a board, and how important it is for us to work together. And if there's a date, I think we threw around the idea of maybe December, that we could all do this. It would be just focused on the hiring of the superintendent.
So I heard multiple things there. One of them was a general orientation with boards' roles and responsibilities, and maybe coming off. I didn't ask about the MASB attendance, the conference, but Reverend Matias was talking about the excellence of Board 101. That may be something at an orientation for the new board. I don't think Mo and I have to be there.
Thank you.
But we had talked about a joint group for the superintendent search, but again, I don't think that's necessarily anything that I need to be in attendance at.
Well, you would be invited.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could decide.
I would enjoy a discussion around that type of policy with this current board if we have room for it on the November 12th agenda.
For the equity piece? Yes. Yes, okay, for the November 12th. So we'll go ahead and have the November 12th meeting, right?
Other thoughts?
Kathy has decided.
I was putting out that we could have a further discussion, kind of a summation of the discussions and work we had done around it. I would also suggest Nicole Hannah-Jones has a couple pretty, I think one of them won the Pulitzer on the role of equity and segregation within schools and how it may relate to our current multiple policies and shifting demographics in the city. So that could be a discussion for the November work session. So Christian would like that. I'm totally flexible.
We would need to
As of
discuss
November
that. That is
12th.
Monday.
Oh, wow.
So that would involve my staff, and so it's a late notice for that. So.
Okay. Well,
Not that we couldn't do it. We need to talk about what is it, though.
okay.
I mean, we're talking 3 days here for my staff.
Okay. You two are gonna be out of town. I just remembered that. And
too.
didn't you say that?
Yeah.
For November 12th.
Let's table it then.
I would like to follow up on Ms. Lewis's comment because we should, up in December, I know we have to have a work session to do the superintendent evaluation. However, Superintendent Kniff will need a date to present the findings of the community engagement process, which will need to occur presumably later that month, as well as he suggested that it would be wise to do just what you suggested, Ms. Lewis, is that we should have MASB do a session, so almost like do a December retreat, and have one last retreat before Mo and Wendy move on, because they won't get any more school board retreats.
By golly, we need some more.
Well, you're gonna let everything.
You need one more.
One more.
So anyway, we may want to discuss,
We should probably,
A date for that.
post-election, work with who's ever going to be serving on this board and their schedules and everything, work on that. So, okay.
So perhaps we'll
Got
have
it.
Julie consider a date after the election, and we know who's on the board. So-
All right, so we are still going to go ahead with the 12th?
Nope.
No. All right, so.
Tabling that.
All right, we're tabling that, okay. And so we're going to set a date in December for a discussion about hiring the new superintendent.
An MASB governance.
An MSAB.
We're going to
Discussion,
look into
yeah.
it. There's nothing's decided.
Right.
It's proposed, so we need to
Get
make
it
some
done.
assessments
Get it
of
done.
whether
All
that's a
right.
possibility of building that
With the dates for
agenda,
the new
with the
people.
calendar. It's
Okay,
very short
that's
time
fine.
and a busy time of
Mhm,
year.
I know.
And it's unknown who
New people
who
are.
will be serving on this board. So there's a lot of question
Ifs.
marks, but
Mhm.
some
I
considerations.
just like things packed in nice and neat,
All right.
You know, you can't.
There's a real discussion. I don't know. I feel like I'm losing my skills at running a meeting as I'm winding down here. I missed roll at the work session. All right, public comment for non-agenda items?
We have none.
Okay, superintendent's
No
comments.
comment, Dr. Fogg.
All right, Reverend Matias, what do you got?
Well, vote tomorrow. There's a lot of decisions to be made, and we hope that the public. It sounds like the public is engaged, and we want to encourage that. Again, thank you to those who have won awards, student and board members, as well as our community. It's just good to know that Grand Rapids is having that good word out there. So.
Just a hearty welcome to our student representatives, and also to thank the public for having, at least those out at the Kent vocational or special developmental, Lincoln Developmental Center, where I was at this morning for the ribbon cutting. Just a wonderful program. I mean, if you've never been out there, it is just really eye-opening to see what tremendous work we're doing in concert with the KISD. The kids, they just move me.
Jackie.
Well, certainly it was an honor and humbling to be recognized by the YWCA, but what great company to be in with students and a teacher from our district. I was just so proud to see Grand Rapids Public Schools represented so well at the YWCA Tribute Awards. So congratulations to my fellow honorees. Thank you.
Just, I'm excited about this community engagement process going forward. It's, I think running for office, you run into lots of people who have, serious thoughts about, what, about Grand Rapids Public Schools and investment in Grand Rapids Public Schools. And I think that this opportunity will open that up, as it did 7 years ago. And I think that this is really hard. This is the time. So there's the work that the board does, but this is particularly hard. And I was reminded this as we were trying to put together this schedule. This is the one time that the board does work with no professional staff to support. So because I might call legal counsel to make sure that we're not violating any rules, but other than that, we're doing this together. And we're doing this because we all take it very seriously, and it's a lot of work ahead of us. And I am glad we have the partnership with the ISD to support this. But I hope that people take it completely seriously and give input and value the work that the board will be doing over the next few months.
No comment.
Welcome to our student members. Really excited and wonderful to read your bios. And we were able to welcome you at our last meeting, but we're really excited to have you as well. We look forward to spending the rest of the year with you.
Wish my colleagues good luck in the very busy time you have ahead of you. Make good decisions. That's it.
All right. Well, I want to congratulate all of our teachers, our kids, our board members who received these wonderful awards. I'm very, very proud of them, and I'm proud to serve with all of you. I also wanted to mention that one of the, and I also want to welcome you, because I haven't met you before, so I'll make sure. But one of the public mentioned the fact that we should get out and see what's going on. And I've served on this board now. It's been my pleasure to serve on this board now for about 20 months. And I just want people to know that I am out there, and I think that I have visited 15 or 16 of the elementary schools. I have read at those elementary schools during March's Reading Month. I think I've been to 6 or 7 of the junior highs, and I've been to all of the high schools except for Ottawa Hills, but I'm going to fix that within the next couple of weeks. So just because folks don't see us there, it's not that we're not there. It's just we're not there when you're there. So, and I don't think I'm special about that. Is my gift is that I'm retired, so I can do these things. And I know my colleagues here have careers and jobs and families and stuff, and I'm just at a different stage in my life, and going to elementary schools and visiting schools is my hobby. So, so I just want people to know we're here, we're out there, and we take this very seriously.
Well, I just wanted to welcome you both again. That this was just one of the most exciting hour and a half you've spent. so really, I guess my challenge to you will be thinking through what the role of governance is. Because I've been on here 9.5 years and I'm still trying to figure it out. But awesome biographies, really just fantastic. I'm really impressed with both of you and really grateful that you're here and working with us. So everybody, yeah.
I just want to say goodbye to you and
we're not done yet. We got December and everything, yeah?
Oh, you have December? Yes. Forget that. Forget that.
I can't wait.
The retreat. You
never know what'll happen next.
I was so afraid nobody said goodbye.
All right, it's a voting day tomorrow. Everybody's got to get to bed, so dismissed. Finished.